When something negative happens to you, seek the refuge of Allah. Seek the blessing of Allah. Seek the forgiveness of Allah. When the condition of your heart will determine whether it's a punishment or a blessing. And when something happens to you, whether it's a positive or a negative, that's beside the point. But when something happens to you, whether it brings you closer to Allah or it distances you from Allah, will determine whether it's a punishment or a blessing. And now if it brings you closer to Allah, it's a blessing. It's a blessing. But if it takes you away from Allah, it's a punishment. A lot of the brothers looking at me confused, so let me explain. Let me give you an example. Let's say there's a man, pretty average man, alhamdulillah, he prays his salah, he's close to Islam, he has that relationship with Allah. Suddenly one day, let's say he wins a jackpot, and his company, let's say his company becomes $1 million company. This is an example. So now he becomes a millionaire. Is there a blessing from Allah? Sure. But he becomes a millionaire and he becomes distant from Allah. He becomes distant from Allah. He stopped praying his salah now. He stopped seeking the blessing of Allah. He stopped studying the Islam religion, and he stopped reading the Quran. Is that really a blessing? Did Allah really bless him with the money? No, it's a punishment. If something happens to you and it distances you from Allah, it's a punishment. It's not a blessing, no matter how it may seem. If it distances you from Allah, it's a punishment. So now, let's talk about the negative side of things. Let's say something negative happens to you. Take it as a blessing. Let's say there's a sick man. May Allah cure all the sick people. Ameen. Let's say there's a sick man. He has cancer. Let's say, for example, and then he goes to the doctor. Doctor says you have 6 months to live. 6 months to live. And he says, Ya Allah, why you punishing me? What? He has 6 months to live. But during that 6 months, he reads the Quran, he focuses on salah, he never misses a salah, he prays his salah with full sweetness, full halawa, and he prays, and he reads the Quran every night, every day, and he studies the Islam religion to the best he can, to the best of his ability. That's a blessing from Allah. That made him closer to Allah. Having 6 months to live made him closer to Allah. That's a blessing. And that 6 months can turn into 60 years with Allah's will. Allah controls everything. Allah, it's all in the plans of Allah, it's all in the hands of Allah. So just one thing, brothers, take away from tonight's khutbah. Take one thing away from tonight. When something happens to you, if it brings you closer to Allah, it's a blessing. Even if it's a negative, if it brings you closer to Allah, it's a positive. But if something positive happens to you, and it distances you from Allah, it's a negative. So sometimes what may seem like a blessing is a punishment. But sometimes what may seem like a punishment is a blessing. It all matters on the condition of your heart.